This is a guide on how to make money. And this is a follow-up to a video I released not too long ago, just going over how to understand Bloons TD Battles 2, as it's a game with a lot of little mechanics and details that you'll need to understand in order to make it to the very top where I am at the moment. So go watch that first video if you haven't, that just goes over the broad topics. But this one will be a little more focused on income. Now let's head on over to our first game here to analyze. Now, on top of talking about eco, I will sprinkle in info or details about gameplay as I see fit. Just because that's also important to know, and what good is infinite money if you don't know how to use that infinite money to win, right? Anyways, our opponent here is Heroic Tiger 1217, who is actually, as of the time recording this, the #1 player ranked on leaderboard right now. However, due to the way the elo system in Hollow Masters works at the moment, I wouldn't actually say when he's the #1 player. Especially when they've been caught DCing other top opponents when they don't get the preferred map choice. But that's a topic for the second channel, so head on over there if you want to know more about why this system's broken. But yeah, to start, I'm going to split this guy into 3 parts, because there are 3 different types of income in this game. Number 1 is just pure eco, the one you get from sending Bloons. Number 2 is alternative income, which is time-based abilities such as Support Chinook, Jungler's Bounty, etc. And then number 3 is farms, which we'll get to after. That's why for this game I've picked a loadout that has neither alternative eco or farms. We're just going to rely purely on Bloons Sends in order to make the money we need to win. Now this game is going to be pretty boring because both of us are actually going to be running the mirror loadout, the same mirror loadout, Ace, Alk, and Sub. And generally when both players run pure eco strats, the game ends up being fairly passive, so I promise you guys the other games will be a little bit more exciting. Now, because I didn't mention it in the first video, every single Bloon Send starts out spaced, and then turns into group Bloons at a certain round, except for red Bloons, which already start at group reds. Now, the general rule of thumb is that the grouped eco sends give you more eco per second, but at a lower efficiency. So you're spending more money, but you'll end up getting more far down the line because of your higher eco. That's why if you're running pure economy strats, you almost always want to start with the group reds into group blues. And you should ever only send the space Bloons if you think that your opponent's defense will struggle to hit. In this specific scenario though, Monkey Ace plus Oben kind of defends most things, so it's pretty passively played by both players. Before I go any further, I think it's a good time to bring up the actual efficiency numbers. Now here's a table that should hopefully be easy to read and understand. Not made by me, but I will link the full document in the description. Basically, BEP stands for the break-even point. So how long it takes for the Bloon Send that you send out to make back the money that you spent. And then the eco per second is very self-explanatory. So basically in the table, you see how much slower those space sends are in terms of eco per second. And that's why the strategy for max eco in the first 4 rounds is very simple. Just group reds, and then group blues, and then round 5, you definitely want to send group greens. How many you send depends on how well your defense can survive round 5. For example, this Ace strategy is so good that I can pretty much send greens for the entirety of round 5 before switching back to blue Bloons. You don't want to send too many greens because even though it makes you eco very fast, it's very, very expensive, and yellows are actually the same efficiency, which unlock around 7, so you don't want to blow your whole income load right now. But you definitely want to send a little bit just to make sure you're not sitting on too much cash. And that's why, again, we do the blues on round 6, just to accumulate a lot of money for round 7. You'll see, starting it, I basically have $2,000 to spare. And so now this yellow eco has skyrocketed me to an insane amount, making 6.6 eco per second. You need 1,000 income to fully sustain it though, so I would personally stop either when round 8 starts, or when you run out of money sending full yellows. And at that point, you can switch back to group blues. Ninja Kiwi recently made a nerf to most of the spaced income. However, they didn't touch a couple ones, such as Space Purple, so those are pretty much dead even to group blues in terms of efficiency. So you can send those as well if you think it can get through your opponent. Maybe they're doing a wall fire for the defense. But yeah, at this point, depending on the map and strategy, you should at least have 800 income. For round 9 and 10, you have the Space Zebra unlock, which is pretty efficient. So if you have the money, spend on those, but be careful. Since we're nearing the key rounds 11 to 13 for strong rushes, you don't want to use all your income on Space Zebras. So make sure to pull back when necessary, because also on round 12, there is an insanely efficient Space Rainbow Send that they're probably most definitely going to nerf. But as of 1.6, it is golden, because it makes you eco per second twice as fast as group yellows, but also is more efficient. So it's very important to save cash in order to send those out, because the thing is, it's only available for one round before it turns to group rainbows, and then once round 13 hits, you basically just want to go back to group yellows now that every space send for the early game has been changed to groups. As I said, this game starting off was pretty boring, so not much goes on. We still constantly send yellows. Now the question is, when do I start switching to pink balloons? Because that makes income per second much faster than yellows, but it requires about 2,000 income to sustain. And what I personally like to do is I like to do a slow progression. So I'll mix in a couple pinks in between the yellows before fully switching to pinks. This is just so I shed that bit of extra cash that I'm laying around. 4,000, 5,000 cash is pretty good. And it's enough of a buffer that I can defend any rush he decides to want to send at me with a boost. Now here's where things get interesting, and it's something my opponent does. You see he's starting to send group zebras, and that's not exactly a quote-unquote full-on rush. He's also doing that for eco as well, along with purples. Now the thing is, these are definitely not as efficient as the grouped yellows and pinks, but the thing is, it forces me to buy a lot of defense and keep me on my toes. And that's worth it, because if I panicked a little bit more, or if it was a bit worse in playing that, I would have had to boost, and he would have won that trade. Just looking back at the table, you can see how inefficient they are, taking 3.5, 4 minutes to pay back, but their eco per second is really high. So in specific scenarios, if the map is even longer, you can actually opt to change your pinks to zebras. That's the key thing with eco. You only want to keep ecoing to as long as you think the game will last in the worst case scenario. So for my example on ports here, I don't think the game is going to get past round 30 once bats hit. So we're going to stop several minutes early. We'll get to that after. But yeah, heading on over to round 20 here, I'm going to send something for once. An F Moab layered with the natural Moab, just so he has twice the amount of things to deal with at the same time. Try a couple of zebras underneath, but it really doesn't do much, but force him to buy a bit of defense. Not really worth it in my opinion. Now, he's going to send back at me a fortified BFB. This is generally what you want to do with a pure eco strategy, because you don't have farms to sell for a really massive rush. What you want to do is just send one balloon to pressure, get your opponent to build more defense, and then just keep sending eco while they're busy defending. And on top of that, he's doing the same trick he did a couple minutes ago in sending inefficient but strong balloons, group rainbows, in order to force me to have a harder time defending, because these group rainbows are no joke. I'm opting for a Cookie Monster play 040, but even then, I'm scared about the AI balloons on this map, because they exit from another side, so I just have to boost here to be safe. But still, a good trade by him. Almost killed me at that, 20 lives left. And yeah, back to ecoing we go. You saw while I was trying to defend that rush, that I was still sending out eco. And that's important, because you don't want to stop entirely, otherwise they basically win. They might lose 50 eco from sending a fortified BFB, but you lose so much more if you have to stop. Not to say you should always be continuing to send Bloons while defending, but use your judgment if it's a small rush like that to force you to buy defense, versus if they send like 4 FBFBs and more, which in that case would warrant you stopping sending Bloons. So as I said earlier, I don't think the game goes past round 30 on this map, so I stop eco about round 25. Because group pinks take about 2.5 minutes to pay back, a bit more than that. So now we just accumulate money, and more money, and more money, until somebody makes a move. DT spawns are available, nobody tries. Bats become available around 30, and tight ZMGs, nobody tries. I think what I was thinking here this game was I was waiting for him to send me a bad, which he finally does around 31. Because the thing is, with late game, past round 25, blimps gain HP per round, same thing as BTD6. So the longer I wait, the stronger things like DTs come, and that means his Sky Shredder can't defend it. So I'm basically sending space fortified DTs. Might get him with a choke. Unfortunately, I choked, and this game ends very anticlimactically. Yeah, that happens sometimes. But that's okay. At the end of the day, this was a showcase for how to make money, and you saw I had a very solid $75,000 floating. The cards just didn't play in my favor. Now, on to part 2, alternative eco. I realize this guide is going to be pretty long since I have to cover all 3 things, so I'll keep this part pretty short. When the game came out, alternative eco was king, because it was actually more efficient than the grouped yellow and grouped pink sends. However, now that that's been nerfed heavily, none of the alternative eco sources, aside from the Monkeynomic farm, is as efficient as group pink eco anymore. I'll show you this table over here. The main alternative eco sources in this game is Chinook, Elite Sniper, and Jungle's Bounty. I personally am just going to skip over to the mid game of this sports game, up until the point where I stop selling yellows to start saving up for either a mid-game defense or getting my Chinook up. Now, this is not something you should do with longer maps and stopping income entirely in order to save for that alternative eco upgrade. But the thing is, on ports, I don't expect the game to go very late, so I'm going to use the selling power of those alt eco sources in order to kind of act as a farm, because that's the benefit of it compared to eco, which you cannot sell for more defense. But yeah, other than short maps, general rule of thumb is don't sacrifice your grouped yellow pink income for those alt eco sources. Anyways, back over to analyzing this game over here. So my reasoning for starting to save up for the Chinook at about round 17-18 is that that's when mobs come out, so I can stop ecoing in order to, well, have more money to defend stuff. And then after I end up successfully defending is when I can sell some of the defense in order to rush that $12,000 Chinook. However, this does leave me a bit vulnerable to him sending me, because it's very important to not sell or be forced to sell your eco, because of course you'll lose a lot, and there's an initial cooldown on it. So the bare minimum, you should make sure to budget enough money to be able to defend the next 20 seconds or so before getting that ability up. But yeah, not listed here on the alternative eco sheet is boats, because they kind of fall under farms. However, I'm still going to cover it under this section, just because I want to cover farms solely on their own. So yeah, boats are pretty inefficient, okay? They take many rounds to pay off, 8-9 rounds, and generally 8-9 rounds is more than 2 to 3 minutes. So pretty inefficient. However, favorite trades does have that perk of giving you extra sal back, and that's why in this game, since I have boat, I'm also going to go for that. Not until, of course, I get a couple of heli farms rolling, because those are more efficient than the favorite trades. I do opt to go for the favorite trades after I kill this UMG that he sent me, just so if and when I'm gonna sell Power Lord, I'll get 10% more sell back. Now, I don't sell it because I think at this point it's probably better to keep it around for these DDT rounds, because with my opponent running a very similar strategy, bow and mortar, round 28 is a key round I'm looking at. Round 28 is where two very strong rushes unlock, group DDTs or very tight ceramics, aka round 63. My plan here, if he sends DDTs out, is to Power Lord the first set in and then go for the biggest one, because it now has a stun. And here comes round 28, and off to the races. Both of us send out DDT rushes. I quickly sell everything for the biggest one, boost, micro ability, all that, and the stun pays off. This guy actually stream sniped me, and I think he told me after the game that he didn't have the tier 5s unlocked. Unlucky, pay to win game. But yeah, hope you now understand alternative eco. And now to farms. The most complex and I would say most exciting part of what the game has to offer. Yes, I know there is a huge subset of the population that hates having farms be quote-unquote meta, because this is currently the best way to make money in this game. And let me go over it. We're playing the same opponent as the first game, Heroic Tiger. I'm running boat ice and farm, aka FBI strategy, and he's going to be running another meta strategy in Darling Ice. So this will also serve as, I guess, how to play against Darling Ice. I know a lot of people wanted some insight on how to play against meta strategies, so I'll touch on that briefly, but again, main focus is eco. So the most optimal way to farm has gone through multiple iterations for the top gameplay. So here's what I can tell you guys right now. You also don't want to sacrifice your eco for farms too much, because the thing is, it's kind of opposite to Bloons and eco. As you saw, the eco sends get more inefficient as the rounds get further, but of course compensate, you get more eco per second. But the thing is, farms are kind of the opposite. They aren't that efficient at the early stage. And I'm not just talking about 000, even 200 farms. Let me show you this table over here. So you see that 200 isn't really more efficient. It takes almost 8 rounds to pay itself off. And that's not that great when stuff like group reds and group blues take under 2 minutes to pay off in the early game. So that's why you'll see not a farm dropped on both sides. We're just both going full on blue income. Now I will try to sneak a farm over here in for round 4. Just because the benefit with having farms is that sometimes you can sacrifice some group blue eco if you think maybe a constant barrage of space balloons like space whites or space yellows will get your opponent down. Because the thing is, if you're only running pure eco as your income source, sending a lot of those space balloons will set you back because you can't spend all that money you saved up at once. Whereas the farm, you can kind of do that. You can send pressure while building the farm income because you have more money saved up. That's why both players constantly are sending space whites on round 5, even though they're pretty inefficient. We're trying to force each other to spend more money on the defense, and that forces me to buy a cannon ship on my side, and then a 0-2-2 Dartling on his side. But then, of course, after that's done, we go back to the efficient group blues, and then spend whatever money extra we have on the farm upgrade. And now let's take a look briefly at the later stage farms, tier 3s and above. 3-2-0 is when things start to get a little more efficient. Only 7.2 rounds to pay itself off. But you see how quickly the efficiency skyrockets. Once you get a 4-2-0, 5.8. Granted, we'll get that pretty late. And then Banana Central, tier 5s, man. 4.5 rounds to pay off. This might sound a little bit extreme, and that's because, well, it kind of is. That's how efficient it is. And that's even after multiple nerfs. Food for thought. And now for bottom path farms. So they have the benefit of having more sellback. So these are the farms you want to get if you plan on selling them later. But if you plan on going for the long haul, which we both are, we're going to end up going for top path farms. But yeah, quickly back to bottom path farms. You see their efficiency, because of the extra sellback, is not as efficient as the top path. They're about a half or 1 round behind in the break-even point. So yeah, this is our round 9 income. Heroic Tiger, 3-2-0-0 farms. Alternatively, if the rounds didn't go as fast, then they would opt for a 3-2-0 and a 2-0-0 farm instead. But yeah, not this game because Oasis is a pretty anti-stalled map. And that brings me to a topic that I'll probably get more in depth about. Stall and anti-stall. You'll probably hear me talk about it a lot in my games. And that's because it's very important because as you saw, the balloon income and alternate eco sources are based on time, whereas the farms are based on rounds. So basically the gist is that if the rounds go faster, then the farms will make more money relative to the eco sources. And the way rounds go faster is by popping the last natural balloon of each round faster. So yeah, each round also has varying round length, so you have to just have to keep a mental note of those as you get more experience with playing the game. But yeah, anyways, we have a pretty passive game here for the mid game. Once again, you'll see me stick to the plan of not sacrificing my main pure eco too much in favor of more farms, because still right now, the group yellows are more efficient than even tier 3 farms. So as it stands, the farm meta is sending yellows for a long time. You'll want at least 1,500 income, probably more than that. You'll see how much I stop at later on the line. But yeah, basically with your spare money, you want to start upgrading some of those greater production farms into plantations. Generally, what a lot of people like to do is go for 2 banana plantations, and then their third 2-0 farm starts being turned into a marketplace, because these farms are going to need to be sold later on. So yeah, it is about round 17 where I personally decide to stop sending yellows. Some people like to keep sending yellows. It really kind of depends on your preference most of the time. The difference isn't too large. But personally with my strategy, because I have boat and thus the favorite traits that gets me more sellback, I'm gonna go for a different farming strategy compared to Heroic Tiger here. And here's some action. Round 18. I'm thinking a couple fortified mobs will get him to spend a little bit more on defense, but then I realized he has Smudge Cat, and Smudge Cat kind of destroys FMOABs. So that kind of ended up being a waste. He just uses his abilities and kind of 4K down to drain for me. Anyways, back to farming. So I now have 2 marketplaces and 2 plantations. This is where you want to start upgrading to tier 4 farms. And that's where I'm going to save up to get my first marketplace into a central market. Now, Heroic Tiger is doing a different play. He's actually going to upgrade his plantation to a BRF. So there's 2 things you can do here, because the ultimate goal is to get a tier 5 farm. You can either go for a Monkey Wall Street, which makes 10k at the end of a round, or you can go for Banana Central, which is more expensive, but makes you a whole lot more money per round, and you don't have to wait for the end of the round. And that's what Heroic Tiger's doing, and I am doing the Wall Street play. So with the Wall Street play, what you want to do is you want to get 2 204s and then save up around $20,000 or so in order to sell into a Wall Street. Meanwhile, if you want to go for Banana Central, you want to go for a BRF and then 2 central markets and then sell at about $25,000 for the Banana Central. I think a lot of people nowadays are opting to skip the Wall Street entirely. However, again, with the favorite trades, I'm hoping it pays back, because I'm getting at so much more worth by selling that Wall Street, because it's an extra $5,000 with the favorite trades. And by the way, you want to make sure that if you do go for the Monkey Wall Street route, you sell right before a round ends so that you get the 10k boost instantly. So I guess I'd recommend, if you're just getting into the hang of things, to just go for the Banana Central so you don't have to worry about round timings. But yeah, that's generally the play. And here I am sending a rush. 45 BFB layered with Regal Rainbows, because he, at least I have assumed, that he doesn't have a lot of money on hand because he just got that Banana Central. So I was kind of hoping to maybe catch him off guard, or in the best case scenario, get him to sell the Central, but nah. He just uses all the abilities and boosts, so he defends those rainbows nicely. But yeah, as I said, I want to use that extra sell back with the Wall Street to go for the Banana Central. So mine is a bit later, which means, yes, I am technically behind him right now. But that's not the worst thing in the world, because again, he's running what I would probably consider a slightly better strategy. And with the power of boats, I promise I will catch up. Because the thing is round 26 is coming soon, and DDTs, for him to defend it, he's got to spend $30,000 on an Icicle Impale. Meanwhile, I have a $5,000 boat pull-in, and that's probably not worth it for him to send. Which means this round, I can pull away, spend more money of my defense in farms. Meanwhile, he has to kind of save cash, or if not, then he'll have to sell a farm in order to buy the Impale. But seems like he doesn't. He saves cash, and I force the buy. And interestingly enough, Hero Tiger actually is going for the DT play, which is crazy. He actually goes for a lot of it, and I didn't save a lot of cash because I didn't think he was going to go for that. So I kind of panic sell. I unfortunately even had to sell my one of my beer wraps in order to afford the Impale, which is a bad play. It's kind of hard to do in the moment to see how much cash you have exactly. But yeah, that was overkill, and in fact, even with that Impale, I'm not in the clear. I have to boost, because the thing is, DTs still move, and there are camos around your insides that I must deal with. So yeah, even with that boost, it's not too bad for me, because he lost a lot of eco by sending DTs. I didn't really mention it too much in the eco portion of this, but yes, sending strong blimps will lose you eco, so it's very important to not send too much of them if you're a pure eco player. Now, the farming strategy after getting a Banana Central is very, very simple. You just spam 4-0 beer wraps. Basically, fill in every single farm space that you can with beer wraps, provided the money's there. However, the money isn't there this game, so I kind of have to stop just, I think, one farm short. On this map, you can fit one on the left side, my side. But yeah, it's a bit too late for that. We both now have to defend around 30. And this is where things get interesting, because, yeah, as you see, I'm sending out a normal bad, he's sending out a fortified bad. The reason why I only send a normal bad out is because sending that out forces out the same amount of defense for him, even though it's easier to defend, because his strategy with Darling Ice is to get a mad, which is very expensive, $68,000. Meanwhile, for me, the defense is pretty close to cost, actually. We need to go for multiple destroyers, a carrier flagship, and a Super Brittle, so that every shot on the bad gets +5 damage on it. And honestly, I don't think I need to even build that much defense, because yeah, we're shorting that F-bad really quickly. Well, it looks like I actually get mine down first, yeah. So there it is. DET spawn, ZMGs are left. And yeah, one problem with my boat ice strategy is that, unfortunately, even ZMGs take a long time to kill. So I'm gonna say screw it, I'm just gonna hook it in immediately, because I don't want to take chances, since the Impale doesn't perma-slow the ZMG down. And now for round 32. He's kind of going all in here. 3 stacked fortified bads. Now I gotta send the same thing back. Just again, keep him on his toes. For this part here, I'm going to absolutely need to use a monkey boost. I have 1 left still, so that should be fine. All you gotta do is pop the F-Bats and we're good to go. We can just pirate load hook in the rest of the F-Bats in. The problem with Oasis, though, is that there's really not a lot of space for boats, because like normally I run this strategy, or I'd run this strategy on Star where I can place like 20 aircraft carriers, but this one, yeah, I only have like 3-4 of them for damage, so I really need that monkey boost. I'm gonna just constantly send some F-Bats back, because in case I do kill my 3 F-Bats, I pretty much win the game as long as he can't defend the other 2 F-Bats I sent after that. Use my last monkey boost to pop it a little bit faster, and then I'm waiting for the 3rd F-Bat to pop, and then I gotta start boat pulling the ZMGs and the DTs, because again, they're moving so fast thanks to the scaling and the ramping of late game here. Impale just cannot keep up, so I gotta go ham with Pirate Lords. Bye, Rissal. Bye, Rissal. And I'm doing all that while occasionally glancing over his side to see if he's dead yet. And I pretty much can win the game here if I finish hooking in all fortified ZMGs. So 3, 2, And last hook in. And there it is. We did it. We defended the scary F-pad rush. And Mio on his side, he pops one of the F-pads, but he doesn't beat the insides. And yeah, that's going to be game 2. An overall, not too exciting start, but very intense finish. And yeah, that defend and win on my side was only possible because I went for an optimal farming strategy. So hopefully you learned a thing or two. I thank you all for making it to the end, and if you have any other topics you want me to touch on in Battles 2, then let me know, because I think we got a little mini-series on our hands here. Stay tuned for potentially more advanced topics, or anything else I missed in general about this game. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't. See you guys next time.